Hello, everyone. This is Rick, and welcome to Astral Club. Today's episode is Astral Projection Hacks for the Physical Plane. Before we get started, I just want to give you guys a couple of announcements. First of all, for anyone who doesn't know, I post a video every Saturday at 8:15 a.m. So if you've subscribed and maybe even hit that bell, and for whatever reason you're not being notified, at least be aware that you will see a video pop up every Saturday at 8:15 a.m. and that's Eastern time here in the United States. So you can adjust it to whatever local time. The second thing is I want to talk about playlists. I don't know if everyone knows that I have a series of playlists where I have segregated the various videos that I have done over the last 2 years into categories. For instance, if you're into Astral Guide School videos, there's an Astral Guide School playlist. There's a Space and Aliens playlist if that's something that you're really interested in. There's of course the Q&A playlist where all the Q&A videos are there if that's your thing. And of course I also have an Astral Club complete playlist of all of the videos. And I'm going to have those links to those playlists in the description. Okay, let's get started. Just to let you guys know, I've been having a lot of nightmares over the last couple of weeks since that episode, The Galactic Trap, where I was trapped between those two black holes. And I thought I was over it after a day, but apparently my subconscious is still struggling quite a bit because I've had some serious nightmares waking up all clothed in sweat and thinking I was still trapped back there. And so it's really interfered with my astral projections over the last couple weeks. Now I'm going to get this solved. Don't worry about it. And I'm going to get back out into space because just like baseball coaches tell you, if you get hit by a ball playing baseball, you got to get right back out there again. So my intention is to get out there and check out Enceladus, which is an ice moon of Saturn. It's something I wanted to do for the longest time. And I remember a while back, my angel or astral guide said that he had something interesting that he wanted me to see on Enceladus, and he'd be willing to take me there. So I plan on taking him up on that next week. Okay. Now, when it comes to astral projection, you'll notice that my experiences skew very much towards the spiritual because I believe that the ability to astral project should be used mostly for purposes of spiritual growth and for helping those in need on the astral and physical planes. I think many times when people ask questions about how this could be useful on the physical plane, sounds to me like they're saying, well, if I have a solid platinum hammer, could I still use it to hammer in a nail? Well, of course you could. You could use that solid platinum hammer and you could drive in that nail. Of course, that solid platinum hammer would cost you tens of thousands of dollars. So why not go to Home Depot, buy a cheap one for $10, and you can hammer in that nail just as good using that. So that's what I think of. But there have been times in my life when I did use astral projection to help me on the physical. So I thought I'd tell you a few stories associated with that, and who knows, maybe it'll help you in the future. Now, during my Air Force survival training, they had me up in the Plattsburgh, Lake Champlain area of the country. And there's places there it's very heavily wooded. And it's an ideal place to do some survival training. And the whole idea is to teach you to evade the enemy. Let's say you're, in some operation, you have to parachute out, and the enemy's looking for you. How do you hide? And so they teach you a variety of techniques, and of course, survival is part of that. And this was in the middle of summertime, so I didn't have to worry about hypothermia because it was hot 24 hours a day. But I knew, you learn how to build a lean-to and you learn how to build snares, although I really knew how to do that. And they gave us a couple of canteens and they said, look, you can take this, box of water purification tablets. Uh, so you don't have to worry about water because, like I said, it's near Lake Champlain. So as long as you got those water purification tablets, you're not gonna dehydrate anytime soon. But after a number of days, you gotta find some food because you start getting hungry. And during this training, it was about 3 days. I probably had missed around 9 meals. And it was interesting because I recall from what I read in survival books that the average individual, after they miss 9 meals, will do just about anything to feed themselves because that's when you really start getting hungry. And boy, was I hungry. And my snares, I put them along this game trail. They didn't catch anything. I couldn't even catch a cold. Okay, that's how bad it was. Um, so I came upon the idea of taking a nap near, in my lean-to in the middle of the day. And they often said that's something that you should do in evasion training anyway, because if you can keep hidden and still in the middle of the day, when it's the hottest, and also maybe when search parties are after you, it's easier to stay hidden. So I took my nap and I astral projected. But this time, I wasn't looking for spiritual enlightenment. No, I was looking for food. So I started soaring over the area, looking for any sort of food. And towards the end of my projection, I buzzed along Lake Champlain on the shore. And I saw sitting on this rock this grandpa of a bullfrog. This thing was enormous. And it was just sitting there, sunning itself. So I went right back to my body and got up. And it was about a 20-minute or so walk, I think, to this spot that I knew where it was on Lake Champlain because one of the things I'd done is explored the shore when I first got there. And I recalled there was this big old rock that was right on the shore, and that's where this frog was hanging out. All I could hope was that he was still there. So I hiked there, and then I got within, I don't know, it was far. It was about 25 yards or probably around 23 meters for our metric friends. And I was afraid to get too close because I didn't want to spook the frog. And I just remember picking up a rock. Now, I'm no champion accuracy or champion rock thrower, but I tell you what, something guided that rock. I arched that thing up and it landed and bam, hit that bullfrog right in the head. He just flopped over on his back and was stone dead. I ran down there, okay, got that frog, and like I said, he was stone dead. Took him back to my camp area, got a little fire going, stripped off his skin. It's very easy with a survival knife, comes right off, and stuck him on a branch and cooked him. And I didn't have any salt or pepper or anything else. But to this day, that ranks as one of the tastiest meals I ever had. It tasted kind of like gamey chicken, but I tell you what, it tasted like the finest steak to me after not eating for those 3 days. So, survival. If you're ever in that kind of situation and you've mastered astral projection, you could use it not only to find food, but also find a way out, to scope the area and see if there is a search party in the area. One of the things they say is when you get lost, you're not supposed to wander far from where everyone knows you originally were, because it's easier to find you if they have an idea as to where you got lost. But I've always thought, yeah, but shouldn't you be exploring? Or with astral projection, you kind of have the best of both worlds. You could have your physical body in that given area, but at the same time, you could use your astral body to search out the area and see, is there a town somewhere you can walk to? Is there a river, preferably with running water, that perhaps you can use as a water source? Can you find game somewhere like I did? So there's a lot of uses that you could do in a survival situation. Now, in this case, I wasn't looking to escape because I knew I had to be there for a period of time. And they told me when they were going to pick me up and where I had to meet them. So that wasn't the problem. But you can see where this ability could lend itself to helping you survive in that type of a survival situation. The next thing isn't quite as dramatic, but it's finding lost items. Now, we've all been in situations where we've lost something that was very valuable to us, and you search everywhere and you just can't find it. I recall one time I misplaced a ring that was had a lot of sentimental value for me because when I met my wife before we got married, she was very talented jewelry maker, and she made this beautiful silver ring for me with this inset stunning lapis stone, because I had told her that lapis had some spiritual significance for me, and I just couldn't find the thing, and I'd looked everywhere, and then it finally occurred to me, I wonder if I could astral project and seek out that ring. And I did. And almost immediately, as I captured it in my mind and said to myself, I want to go to where this ring is, I was pulled underneath my own bed. And there in the corner, covered up by a little dust bunny, near where the leg of the one of the legs of the bed was this ring. It had fallen in some perfect place, and I just couldn't find it for the life of me. But I found it so easily using astral projection. Now, the next one is something that I have been asked before by a number of people. And when it comes to finding lost things, one of the things that sometimes people think of is lost and missing people. And they've heard that sometimes there's these police departments out there, and they've used psychics, and these psychics help them locate these people. Understand that these are very isolated incidences. And I think you'll find that if you call your local police department and say, hey, look, I can astral project, I can leave my body. And so if you ever have anyone missing, or you think someone's murdered and they're buried somewhere, why don't you just give me a call and I'll see if I can find them. Now, 9 times out of 10, or probably 99 out of 100, they're just going to say, yeah, thanks, hang up. And the sergeant's going to be, who was that? And they're going to be like, brah, some Fruit Loop. Okay, they're not going to take you seriously. Now, on the other hand, let's say you say, hey, I found where this body is of this person that you've been looking for, because I astral projected, and it led me to this place, and I think I know where it is. I can show it to you. And you do. Understand that most likely, rather than being thanked, you will find yourself being cuffed and taken into custody into custody as, quote, a person of interest. Because let's face it, I mean, let's look at it from the police's standpoint. You come out of nowhere, claim to know where this missing body is, and then you lead them right to it, and you claim, oh, I'm just a guy who can leave his body and just find these things. Or do they think that you're some nutcase who murdered and buried this person, and now you're trying to get some credit for finding the body? And then when they interrogate you, you say, no, this guy Rick on Astral Club, he told me to do it. So the next thing I know is YouTube's being served with some sort of warrant or other, and the cops are knocking on my door, wanting to know what I know about this whole thing. So, I mean, it's a shame. I wish we could use this talent. I wish I could use this talent for something like that. But unfortunately, in the world that we exist in today, there's, especially among our, our police forces and our establishment, they just don't believe in this type of ability. And if you start demonstrating it, despite whatever you think you read or you saw on a news report once about one time this psychic helped them, you're more likely to become a suspect than you are to become a hero. So, I mean, it's unfortunate, but I would be very careful trying to get into some sort of occupation like finding missing or people who have, been murdered and what have you. Okay, the next is something that comes up on a regular basis, and I thought I'd just talk about it a little bit now. The whole lottery experiment thing. And whenever you talk about time travel, that's one of the first things that some folks come up with. They'll ask me, hey, did you ever use this to win the lottery? And my answer is yes, I did. When I was 18, I spent 3 months in the summertime doing experiments. And in that time, I wasted a lot of astral projections trying to get this right. And I'll tell you what I did. I would write down a 4-digit number, whatever the 4-digit lottery number was. Keep in mind that I gave up on the big lottery because with all those numbers, one thing you'll discover when you astral project is you kind of suffer from an astral dyslexia. Numbers aren't something that I think the astral mind was really designed to grasp. Oh, it's great with colors, it's great with images, it's great with a lot of things. But when it comes to those numbers, the more you look at them, the more dyslexic they get. And I'm not dyslexic in the physical, but that's what starts happening. So I gave up on the big lottery because all those numbers, by the time I got back, I'd be lucky if I could remember 3 of them. So I came up with the idea of the 4-digit lottery. So every day I would write whatever the winner was, whatever they drew the 4 digits, and I'd put it up there on my bedroom door along with the date. And like I said, I spent a whole summer and I had so many different partial successes and failures. I didn't actually play the lottery because I was never satisfied until right towards the end when I figured that I had projected just to the right date. And believe me, there's difficulty with getting to the right date and time and dimension, and it's much more complex than the average person understands. But I felt I got there. I felt that I was able to memorize those 4 numbers, although they started getting dyslexic on me again. But you know what I said? It's the end of summer. I've wasted a whole summer's worth of projections on this particular experiment. So I went and I played it 2 different ways. I played it straight. In other words, if the winning number was 1, 2, 3, 4, I played it 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I also played it, I think they call it boxed or something. I'm not a lottery expert. Where if those 4 numbers show up in any order, you win. So I played it both ways because I just wanted to make sure I covered up my ground. And turns out I won. It won straight, so of course I won the box too. And I won some thousands of dollars. And it was nice because I could go back, I could go to school as a freshman, and I had some money that I could spend, and it was fine. But what really impressed me was that I was able to accomplish this because it was something that I had set as a goal, and I wanted to prove that I could do it. Um, I haven't done it since because I've been lucky enough to have a life where I have the money that I need to support my family, and since for quite some time now that I've been associated with Astral Guide School and similar spiritual groups, you're not permitted to use astral projection for base physical purposes like gaining yourself money. It'll get you kicked out, and they can even suppress your ability to astral project. That's possible too if you break that rule, and that scares me more than any darn thing. So, but I did do it, and if you want to experiment with it yourself, chances are you can come up with a better way. Keep in mind that this was back in the early 80s. There was no computers that you could use for various experiments or what have you. So I understand that it was a rather crude and a rather primitive experiment. But if it's something that you want to try, go ahead and knock yourself out. And if you want to throw a few numbers my way, hey, I think that's okay because I'm not using my abilities to do it. If you go ahead and do it and then decide to thank old Rick, hey, it's not my fault, right? Okay, so those are just some hacks that you can use using astral projection that can help you out a little bit on the physical plane. If you enjoyed this video, why don't you hit the like button, share it with those of like minds, subscribe if you have not already. If you have any questions or comments, go ahead and leave those. I love that. I'll have those links to the playlists in the description. And if you want to support Astral Club on Patreon, there will be a link in the description for that as well. And as always, this is Rick, and I will see you on the astral plane.